So our question is on should school truancy be decriminalized? But before I show you the pros and cons of that question, let me show you the definition of truancy. The definition of truancy is the act of staying away from school for no good reason. A kid gets truant when they go over the amount of either tardies or school absences. Now that we have the definition down for school truancy, let's talk about the pros and cons of having it. The first pro of truancy is that truancy helps the students have a reason to come to school instead of just blowing it off. So with truancy, then kids decide to not skip school. Another pro for truancy is that truancy makes the kids and parents accountable for missing school. But that pro also works as a con because sometimes when the student becomes truant, it's from either them being sick or from also them being not able to come to school for some days because of family reasons. And this also gives them truant, so then they're getting punishment for something that they can't stop. Another con is that tardies also count for your truancy. So sometimes when you're late to class or if you accidentally mess up getting to class, then you become truant and then you have to pay a fine. Now that we have the pros and cons out of the way, let's go to the people and hear their opinions on what they think about truancy.
Sir, school truancy. School truancy. What? What do you have to say about school truancy? It's garbage. Garbage. I get to school when I want. School truancy. It's I don't know. Good answer. School truancy. I have 24 tardiness.
What's your opinion on criminalizing students for truancy?
I think that if an alternative way can be found to have students make up the classwork and academics that they're missing out while they're absent during these truancies, it's a better way to help them make up what they've missed rather than just find an outward punishment.
What do you feel about criminalizing students for truancy?
I think it's a great thing.
Do you think we should criminalize students for truancy?
I don't think you should be criminalized based on tardiness, but I do think there's a limit for absences. I think you need to be in school for a certain amount of time. I don't know what that amount of time is, but you should definitely be in school.
Hi, what's your opinion on criminalizing children for school truancy?
I think you gotta have a good plan in place where the student needs to be warned if they're becoming close to truant, and certainly I think if it's affecting their performance in school, there need to be next steps. If a plan is developed and they know that they're becoming truant, they need to, if that's what it takes, if they need to get penalized by a fine, I support that.
Do you think students should be criminalized for truancy?
I think there's a difference between a student being absent from class versus tardy, although even with tardies, a minute late is different than 20, 30 minutes late to class. I don't think that it should stay on your criminal record forever and then prevent other opportunities for you later on.
Based on our interviews and research done within multiple sources and from various points of views, we can determine how the policy of criminalizing truant students should be carried out. Many teachers believe that students should be punished for being truant, but being criminalized should only be used if the student is causing serious problems. An absent day that is unexcused should be looked into rather than pushed towards making a student truant. Some believe that tardies should be seen as a lesser threat when considering a student truant. Being 1 or 2 minutes late to class should not count against a student. Because, as of right now, a student could become criminalized just for being consistently late to class by a few minutes, even if they don't miss a single day of school after that. Tardies should not be counted towards truancy, but they should still lead to a detention or other punishment as deemed by the school. Absences should be counted towards truancy, however, as students should have a valid excuse for missing school days. We're not saying that truancy should or shouldn't be criminalized, but we definitely believe that it should be much harder for a student to become truant, and that the policy itself should be changed in a way that can be in the favor for students when they miss days. Another thing that we believe should be changed with school truancy is how the parent is affected. The parent with a child who is truant may have to pay a fine or even spend time in jail. In some cases, this can negatively affect the family as a whole just because of one truant child. And in some cases, the parent can't even control the truant child because they may be skipping school without their parent knowing. And because of this, we do not think that the parents themselves should be criminalized for this action of truancy. In one case with Eileen Denino, she had to go to jail because her children were truant. And while she was in jail, she ended up passing away because she had several medical issues that couldn't be resolved while she was in jail. And this is just one example of how it affects families and the impact that it can have without anyone really knowing what's going on within the family.